Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode from the Scale Up Thursday series. My name is Rashmita, and I am the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. I'm here today joined by our very own host, Vivek, and of course, our special guest speaker, Pratik. But before we begin the session, I would request you all to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section is open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Our speaker will answer all your questions during the session, so please feel free to drop all your questions in the chat section. But before I hand over the show to Vivek, I would request you all to scan the QR code. It's a quick way to learn about the Microsoft for Startups Founder Hub program and how Microsoft for Startup team supports startup. They provide access to great AI services, expert advice, and the necessary tech to build a future-proof startup. With this, thank you all once again. Enjoy the show, and let me bring Vivek in. Hi,
Hey
Vivek.
Rashmita, thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you.
Hello, good
Over to
evening.
you now.
Yeah, thank you. Um, Hi all, welcome to the Scale Up Thursday show, last episode of this season. And do let us know in the chat from where you're joining from, so we will get a broader view of where people are joining in. And you know, today's session is pretty interesting, and I'm going to bring in the guest as well, who is Pratik Desai here. Let me bring in Pratik. Hello, Pratik.
Hey, good evening.
Good morning to you.
Good
I don't
morning.
know. Did you had coffee?
Oh yeah, I have it like a big cup.
Okay, just for audience, Pratik, you're in San Francisco now.
Yeah, Bay Area, Santa Clara, but
Santa Clara. Okay, it's what time is it?
5-3.
5:03
Yes,
morning, and we are in
morning.
the
Yes,
evening 5:30. So it's with such a interesting, and thank you for taking time out, because I know this is uh, you know it's morning for you, and you're up there and you want to talk about how was your journey and all of those things. And I see a lot of people joining in from different places. I see people joining from Kolkata, which is great, and there are people from Bangalore. Um, Come on, folks, type in from where you're joining in so that we can see from where you're joining in. Before we get started, Pratik, welcome to the show. And you know, before we get started, I just want to understand your journey. And of course, when I bring in guests, I tend to introduce them through their LinkedIn. Usually, go through their LinkedIn. Tell people that this is what the person has done, and these are the things what they have achieved and other things. But I want you to introduce yourself, because it's a long introduction, so I don't want to waste my time. I want to make sure that you can introduce yourself, and you can share your insights, and also learning in that journey as well, right? So let me bring up your slide, because you have a very interesting slide for that introduction. So once again, welcome to the show.
thank you, Vic. Happy to be here. Thank you, everyone. And uh, like farmers wake up early and start their day early, so 5 is not early for me. I'm like happy to be here at this time. I'll tell you like how I work later on, but uh, this is a great opportunity for us to talk about like what we are doing or what we have been doing in our journey, and it has been really exciting. Like the agriculture is not an easy space to work in, not just like India, anywhere else. But like I started as like born in a generational agriculture family, like a generation that we remember. We our family has been like working on farms. I grew up on farms with my father, like village. I had my education in village school, and kind of very well aware of how the whole agriculture domain work, how what farmers life is, what kind of thing they face being like a smallholder farmer. uh, I have seen like the first hand experience all the troubles they go through, and like how the system has been designed. But like one of the risks that my father took, like one of the biggest risks, like putting his land uh, on loan and sending me to US for higher education. And I think like right now what I'm doing is basically paying back the dues. So I went to US for my masters, started in electrical robotics, but always into the computers. Started working on swarm of robots to do the knowledge extraction from the sensor. This was like the pre-IoT era. And moved to working on using AI ML semantic web to extract knowledge from the sensor data. So during the doctorate, we had in our university Ohio Center of Excellence, so like a really great AI institute, and work on the knowledge extraction side, and got in deep into the AI ML NLP thing, working with the sensor information. And this was the time, like, you start getting into this zone that, like, you are in US, you are been 7 8 years doing masters and PhD. You start forgetting your roots, because like you've been 8 years. And at the same time, I went to Silicon Valley for internship. And this was the first I also started like tasting blood for entrepreneurship, and saw, like, from a farmer to entrepreneur, Silicon Valley has, like, it's a whole different charm. Like, if you are trying to risk, if you're trying to, like, start new initiatives. So during the internship days, we created this application called Intimates. Like, the goal was to do real time analysis of the social media. This was 2012 13, where before like any deep learning things, or like even I think it was even pre word to vector, like, which is right now, like, very much core for the embeddings and all. So we created this real-time sentiment analysis applications, and then it really went well. But I think due to the lot of restriction on visas, we have to stop. And after that, like, second startup, I was co-founder of Columbu, where we actually started, like, my job was to find intelligence from the wearables and the sensor data. So this was pre Apple Watch, where a jewelry targeted for like a woman demographic, like working woman who can wear it as something like, good looking thing on their wrist, but then it can also do the tracking of their activities and fall and things like that. And the last one was where I was part of founding team, where we did like over the air updates, which Tesla used to do 2015 16 time. We did it for all the automotive. So many companies these days actually maybe using the software that we build in their cars, like mostly the American companies. And the company got acquired, and this was the time I got satisfied with my entrepreneurial journey in US, and thought, like, okay, I did well, because it was the same time 18 19, where we were seeing a lot of problems with the farmers in India, like a lot of thing with the wastage, onion price going up and down, and the next month then people are not getting anything for the onions and throwing away the entire crop. And the similar time frame, I also started seeing, like, my dad, who was still taking care of farms, started seeing like the lack of daily wage workers. He ended up doing something in the field. He hurt his back, and I think that was the point where I decided, like, I want to start focusing back on my roots, and take my talent to agriculture in India. I think that's like a pretty phrase for that uh, Kevin Durant thing when he came to Warriors.
That's
So
an interesting journey, actually. I mean, now if you see, um, you know, you, you worked with your father in the field, and then you went for your masters, and then you did PhD, and you got into entrepreneurial journey, and in fact, you even sold a company, and now you want to get back into your roots and make sure you solve for things what your father is facing as a part of an issue, and you want to solve those problems, which is very interesting, a journey. And for people who want to be entrepreneurs, this is where it gets interesting, right? If you just sit there and think you'll get a good idea, it won't come to you unless and until you go into the field. I don't mean going into the field in agriculture, but you go into the field, into the markets, into your roots, and try and see where the problems are, and probably come up with complex problems to solve for. And by the way, Pratik, people are joining in from New York, uh, Bangalore, Chennai, Gurgaon. It's all over the place in now. So
Nice.
welcome everybody to the show again.
Yeah.
So go, yeah, Pratik, go ahead.
So agriculture is universal problem actually. Like
Yeah.
I have not talked to even farmers in US, and like through KissanAI journey we have kind of talked to 14, 15 different countries and the agriculture companies and farmer, and this is like universal problem. It's just on different level, but agriculture is like one of the least digitized domain. So I have been going back to my journey. I was insider, then I became outsider, like Silicon Valley and the entrepreneurship and like the living life here is like a whole different thing. And then when I jumped back into the agriculture, I was outsider because I came from my learnings from the building things in the valley, all the things about like the product, services, design, user experience. Everything was designed for like whole different demography. So I just jumped in that I want to bring AI ML like high tech application in the hands of farmers so they can directly start using it. Because for me, the biggest problem the farmer face anywhere in the world is the middle layers, and not just me one middle layer. There are multiple middle layers which actually comes between the agri input companies or the buyers and the farmers in between, and both sides there are many layers, and that's the reason like the both side like all three sides actually kind of struggle, but the middle layers always get the big base out of it. So the first problem that I realized at that time, that the plots are not like geolocated. The plotting is not done for India, even not today. Like it's on the paper. Like so, if my dad has to go to see what's the boundaries are, he can go to a collector office. They'll give you a page paper printout in JPEG, and they're like, this is your boundary. There is no like a geolocation. While we have like a really high tech Google Maps, we can actually accurately tell you like the traffic, distance, and the travel time, and like very complex thing, while this is so backward in terms of like technology and all. So I started like the projects are like, hey, we're gonna start digitizing because technology was available, satellite images were available, so we started doing open CV computer vision and started plot matching, polygon matching, and started plotting the land for the state of Gujarat. And we actually end up doing like 1.2 crore would be like how much, uh, 10, one 12 million, yes, 12 million plots of farmlands in Gujarat. And it was like you can zoom in, it's like hosted on geo server, we can tag things. And at that point, as I say, like I from insider I became outsider, and that same time I forgot the that farmer, if you're building something for farmer, even high tech, there are so many things for farmer education to teach them how this can be useful. And then as an entrepreneur and a startup, you also need to realize that do you have product market fit or not. Like it can be like really nice plotting tool, but who is going to pay for it? Like and the farmers at that point are not ready in India to pay subscription fees or some value added tools on top of lots. So we learned first lesson at that point that like farmer, if you want to build something to the farmer, you cannot build a company on top charging farmers basically directly. They will pay for agri inputs, they'll pay for very necessary things. But if it's come to paying for like value added services or software as a service kind of tools, it's going to be very difficult. So at that point realization, we started building another application. The goal was, let bring farmer on the platform, and then we will serve as like this AI applications under the like umbrella of helping them to build their own stores. So we created this Titori platform. Titori is like a farmland bird, which is like very like a titar in Hindi. So the goal was we help them create like their online shop there where they can directly reach out to consumer, and under that we will start giving them the services like price prediction models, independently hosted tools. We saw that farmer cannot create like really nice looking consumer labels and package, because when they're trying to sell something online, let's say somebody is actually growing turmeric and they create like a dry turmeric powders, but they will just pack in a plastic bag, and then they will just try to sell it directly, which doesn't have any consumer appeal. So this was the time we started extensively using generative AI. So August 2020, the stable diffusion drops, and by September, we have mined 50,000 commodity images of various like 3,000 commodities. So These images are basically royalty free package label, like a stylish image that they can directly use and just start printing and using it. So we kind of jump into this AI because we knew the problem very well. We know what we are exactly trying to solve, and like there was no like exploration for us to kind of figure out that like, okay, stable diffusion is really well, how I can use it. So instead of experimenting, we just started actually building product. We also created this application where the background replacement tool that was like launched in December 2022, where the farmers who actually trying to promote their items, they can take a picture, we remove all the background and put like a really nice professional looking thing so they can stand out. So we started using all different kind of things so they can stand it out on the platform that we built, so they can host the store. We have like around, without marketing, we have like around 500 plus stores just all created by farmers. Some of them are using it just to link and all. But then to help their journey, we were also mining huge amount of data from GPTs, from the website, agriculture university's website. We had MOU with the university nearby, all the help and practice, a package of practices that get created so we can help out through this platform. And this was our earliest journey for the Kisan AI, because what we were actually doing at that point was we had a problem very well defined. Uh, and then we also started generating and getting curating a lot of data. So when the GPT 3.5 price went down, like we have identified the problem that like farmers education is very difficult. You can like all the technology that we have created for them, apps and all, they are created by technology for folks, for technology like tech people. They are not designed for farmers. And meanwhile, so we saw like very least adaptation of agriculture apps and the retention numbers. Meanwhile, we saw the billions of messages get sent by this farmers in rural India every day without anybody going teaching them how to use WhatsApp or Instagram reel. So it's not that like they are not digital savvy, they know how to use it, but it need to be simple, like really intuitive, so they we do not have to go and keep teaching them how to use it. So under that premise, we said like that language and literacy barrier again, like that they speak regional language, and literacy is like also like very important problem for us. So if you start listing out the problem, the farmer do not pay, we need to have intuitive UI interface so we don't have to do education. We need to have solve the literacy and language problem because they should be talking in their own language. If because of literacy, it should there should be a voice interface so they can just start talking into it. And then on the data side, if you look at it like the all the information that could get produced by different university institutes or krishi organizations, that's very unstructured everywhere. Farmer is not going to search on Google and find out the document, and he kind of relies on the local person to get the information. So combining all those things, meanwhile we already have a lot of data. The Kisan AI actually came to intuition. They're like, hey, how about we create a multilingual voice based interface, just a one click button, and then put all the knowledge base that we have curated through that uh, to the farmer, so farmer can start talking in basically to the AI itself. And that is something where we identify the problem, and we launched this thing last March, so it has been a year. And when we launched, we were not aware that like this is kind of very first voice based generative AI interface, like for anywhere else. Like if you look at the Google Bard feature or OpenAI feature, they came recently. Like yeah, they are pretty good in terms of like interface, like we are doing whatever we can with a small team, but we actually did solve this problem in the March of last year. And this is what exactly it looks like a simple talk to AI button. You talk about in your agriculture problems, whatever data that we have curated, we can provide answer. If not, then we rely on the LLM's universal knowledge. Our goal will be that like we keep curating and keep adding more and more information, so ultimately there will be like a one single point for knowledge, one single companion application for farmers so they can start using it, right? And because it's conversational. Sorry, you were saying something, Vivek?
Yeah, so I just want to break down the problem which you were trying to solve. So basically, just going back to your slide. So basically, one of the problem is the farmers' literacy. Basically, they need to understand what different products are there which they can use, and what are how to use it and other things, and obviously in their own understandable language. That's one of the thing which you are trying to solve, and obviously the manuals and other things which is there, how the supports can be given to the farmers. And again, there are a lot of research which has been done from various group of institutes for specifically on agriculture, and it is all unstructured as of today. It's not very much structured, so you're taking all these unstructured data and advisors and everything, and then you have come up with a solution which is basically a generative AI, using generative AI and conversational mode of solving this problem. Have I summarized it right?
Yes, correct. Like really.
Got it.
Yeah, and so what end up happening is like just being like very tech focused, and I think the goal of Microsoft Reactor is basically to like, yes, identification problem is good, but I think the tech is also very important here. So because of my background working in NLP and all, I was aware of the retrieval augmentation generation, the RAG, which is like right now very popular. So that paper actually came out in 2020. So that has been around a long time. So we have used for some other application. So for us to kind of create our own like a RAG based system at that point, like just hard code it, was like very quick and easy when we build it. And now there are many like libraries available for anyone to start building it. But right now, if somebody want to build something on their knowledge base, that is one of the best approach, because it can be really good at reducing hallucination because you are staying to the curated knowledge base. And one more thing that we learned, and I think that's coming from the experience that I had, that the data matters a lot. And in recent papers in like Orca papers and Pi papers also kind of uh, describe very well that like data quality matters a lot. So what we have been always focusing is like this unstructured data is not just like taking PDF and just like converting into some text, but we are actually doing annotation on top of it, adding more like labels. So when you actually do the chunking and all, then your lot of context and metadata get kind of saved with that. So you are actually, you can do like a proper thing. So data curation is very important to consistently kind of provide information. Now the biggest problem for like this thing is like we have more than like 100 different agriculture institute. The data is everywhere. There is no central repository. There are some new initiative being started by Ministry of Agriculture to kind of do the create like a centralized repository, but it's going to be very challenging problem, because like who is going to maintain, who is going to do data annotation. So right now for us, and this documents are in also many languages. So India has so many, there are 22 official languages, right? And there are like a 10 or 12 which are very popular one. And these documents are actually generated in different languages, in probably like just taken a pictures and create like a PDF. So you have to literally do OCR, translation, curations. So for us right now, like we are trying to solve the hardest problem, which is like Indian languages with this unstructured data. And like what we have, we are at a stage where if we can solve this properly and create like a pipeline for the India, then everything else become very easy, because most of the countries are monolingual, probably more organized than us. So we started with the toughest problem in terms of data curation and agriculture, and now we are realizing that when we are actually doing this thing, repeating this for other countries and other customers outside of India, it's like really easy for us, basically just like very quickly the whole pipelines are. So so this is the problem that we identified, created a solution, and I think the response that we received was amazing, because as I say, like this was very first time someone saw a conversational, not just agriculture, anywhere else. So in first few days and months, we really got like really great response from everyone around. It used to call Kisan GPT early days, so I didn't think like if anybody had came across Kisan GPT, yes, that was Kisan AI. And we got great response. People are using it, coming up with a feedback, asking us to add equipment information, manuals, asking us to add scheme data, like tractor equipment, how to use it, how to handle it, and those all kind of requests started coming in. So we can realize that we have created like a great value proposition, right? And until now we have reached like around 110K farmers. Like it's kind of growing, it's kind of slow down because we are not actively trying to reach out, because it's a startup. That is also one more thing, that like if you are like a foundation run, like you have like a lot of grant, and you can work and start to acquire a lot more customers. But we also know the farmer doesn't pay. So if I'm creating a consumer application and trying to grow rapidly and crazy, I need to also start cutting down cost on inference in terms of the infrastructure and all. So that is the point we realize that like we also need to do innovation, not just in terms of creating this conversational AI. mean to start creating and fine tuning our own LLM, which are smaller, 7 million or less parameters, with the knowledge that we have, so we can reduce inference cost drastically. So if when we have to actually start supporting millions of users, we have actually infrastructure which is cost effective. So so that's what we started doing. And in terms of like in that journey, we actually last December we launched Dhenu. I think Vivek, you were there when we actually kind of trained. This was LLM kind of created with the collaboration with the Sarvam AI. They have their open model called Open Hathi, which is a
Hmm.
bilingual model, and we created work with them. And then we recently also trained a multilingual vision model, a multimodal vision model for pest and disease detection. That's like still in the progress. We like release the LoRa version for 3 crops. So I think Vivek, what we can do, if somebody on the audience doesn't know about like how the Kisan AI works, like I can show the demo that we have recorded, like for just the how the tool works. Like, do you
Sure,
think?
sure, sure. I mean, I one of the thing which I just want to call out is I still have that sticker from Dhenu launch.
Yes, yeah, that
So,
that sticker is more popular than everything else. Okay,
uh, go ahead,
so and
go ahead.
anyone who hasn't seen the uh, okay, how do I change the video?
Oh, I'll do that.
Okay, the first one, right?
It's the mobile one.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Mango trees can be sprayed with different types of
You want to start with the beginning. So you can see it's like a very like clean interface. Nothing there. There's a button for ask the question.
What type of spray can use for flowering and after flowering for mango tree?
for flowering and after flowering. Mango trees can be sprayed with different types of fertilizers and pesticides depending on the specific needs of the tree. For flowering, you can spray a
Yeah. So I guess not going into very deep, but like this is what the interface look like. And we have been supporting multiple languages, so like you can go to the settings and change to many languages, and then if you want to talk in Hindi, you can actually talk in Hindi or Spanish. Right now our data set is focused on India, so you are going to get answer for the India, but for us it was a demonstration that how we can actually uh, show like that the whole AI interface can be used for multiple language and voice based conversation. And I think this is the uh, this is where the Microsoft has helped us out, because Microsoft for Indic languages has a really good speech models. So like a very funny story, when we actually launched in the early days March, like we are bootstrapped, so we are like not trying to do any expensive stuff, and we are always looking for like the easiest and the cheapest way we can find to run all this thing, right? Because anyway ultimately this is going to be served to the agriculture and the farmers, and we cannot be like very lavish in terms of using as many GPUs as we want. So I had couple of gaming GPUs at home, and before we actually started using Microsoft speech recognition, there was this AI for Bharat models. Now it's called Basini, but before it was Basini and open and for everyone to use. The models were hosted on GitHub. The models the model files were not like for some models were not even available, so I had to literally go to the XML file, find out the URL for E2E networks, downloaded the model, figure out how to run it. And early days, we were like running, using those things for like the ASR and the translation part. But I think now it like this initiative has become like really big in terms of like how they're supporting. And at the same time, I think Microsoft Startup Hub kind of came out for help, and I think since then we have been using Microsoft for this ASR translation part. It's been working out really well. I think the data set that has been used for Microsoft speech technology and Basini is probably the same, because it came out from the same research from Microsoft research team, right? Vivek, I don't know, like you can provide more information, more. This is what I know about it. So going back to this thing, like folks can try it out. There is an app, there is a website. Pardon us if you cannot find like very specific answers sometime, because this finding out knowledge for very region specific thing is really hard. We have around like 10,000 different PDFs and all that we can we have tried to incorporate. But yes, like we are working very hard so we can actually keep adding more. So this was the time where we also kind of realized that we are growing very rapidly, And if we keep growing very fast, we will run out of even Microsoft credits very soon before figuring out what is the business model, like how we are going to monetize it. And I think this is the time we also figure out that, like, from these farmers who started giving us input, they also started reaching out to agribusinesses, asking them to say, like, why we don't have this thing in your application. Because people who actually make money in agriculture domains are the people who actually selling directly to the farmer, who have the distribution, who has the like farmer base already established. So they are actually the one directly doing commerce with them. So when the farmers started reaching out to agribusinesses, we started getting inbounds. They're like, we have this thing inside our apps and websites, and that's where we decided, like, hey, this is like a good business, like this is a business model that we should be pursuing, while we keep serving the application for the farmer, help them out with all type of package of practices, seed, pesticide, fertilizer schemes. We want to kind of start making business out of it and not run as a like a non-profit, basically. So that's when we started building our AgriCopilot platform. We were calling it AgriCopilot. I think just like being in Microsoft ecosystem, we're gonna start calling everything which Microsoft, like, riding the bandwagon. So it's Agricola, I think, and it's very much to the problem that we had earlier, but now it's scattered towards the agribusinesses, right? So what we are trying to do is we take the knowledge from the agriculture companies or institute or whoever actually want to create this advisory board, and first thing we do is help them out with the data curation. If somebody is actually looking into the curation of the data, because they may have like all type of information everywhere, and mostly in the RAG system, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you actually supply bad information, then your answer will not be consistent. So that is something we help them out, the data curation annotation part. And I think the core remain the same, the whole system that we have created. And now what is additional value-added thing we provide is, like, we have now uh, domain knowledge, the domain nuances and the business logic. So we know our agriculture based, we understand how it works with the farmer, what kind of question and query they ask, because that's what we have been collecting from our website. So we can actually, in terms of everything in terms of business logic, using our knowledge, and top of that we have the business knowledge, right? So that how we help them out. And then, like, providing the multiple interface points as through APIs or like a bots, so they can create, like, either advisors for their growers or sales teams or marketing. And now we have also started, like, one of the application that we are kind of keen on, in terms of showing, like, what actually it can enable is like enabling conversational commerce, right? So I think this is something I actually covered, right? Because, like, vertical specific business logic nuances and the data is important, because as soon as someone start talk, so it's the user of the businesses that use the platform. Now if the business knowledge base is just limited to the product catalog they have or the package of practices they have created, and if farmer end up asking question which is not part of their knowledge base, it need to be supplemented with something more curated one. And that is where we add like a value, say, like, hey, we have a huge amount of data for your region. So now a question is not answered by your knowledge base can go to our knowledge base, so farmers can still get the proper answer. And then if it doesn't go work well, then we go and rely on the LLM, which is again going to be like some very cost effective one, which is trained on the data, right? So so right now, in
So
terms of
just
like,
one
yes,
second, Pratik, just go back to one more slide.
yes,
Yeah, this one.
okay.
So here, so you're building a platform now, right? So
Hmm.
basically, the Kisan AI is just to have your farmers come there and ask questions and get answers to that. But then
Correct,
you're trying to build a platform which is basically can be consumed by the agribusinesses,
correct,
and also be consumed by farmers, can be consumed by distributors, and
correct.
basically anybody who is in agricultural business. So they would be able to consume all of these things, and you have different set of LLMs being built for uh, different set
Application.
of problems which you're
Correct.
trying to solve there. Perfect.
Yes.
And obviously have all the support from the language perspective there.
Correct. Yes. So language translation is the key part. The knowledge, that the curated knowledge of particular region in agri is the one of the key parts. So if you use a generic, let's say, RAG platform, which is not vertical specific. So what we are trying to be is like the in agri vertical, if you're building a application on your knowledge base, that we are the one basically giving you end to end from the knowledge. Because building rack pipeline is like there is no science in it. Like we built it before all the llama index and langchain became popular, people who are using it, right? So there's no like a really like there are new things coming out, and like there are re-rankers and like all things, but at the end of the day basically what you're doing is like searching your vector index, doing the semantic search, uh, or like cosine like nearest neighbor, or maybe sometime even a keyword you can like integrate like hybrid query. But then ultimately at the end of the day that's not like a difficult problem for anyone to build. The value add is when you actually can supplement the knowledge with like their knowledge with under additional knowledge, or you can have vertical nuances actually added to your llms, right? So and we do also understand in terms of like the when you see a data in agriculture, there is like all type of data. There are like a trials data, there are package of practices, product catalogs has like a different type of region support and soil type support and all kind of thing, right? So those kind of thing cannot be just parsed as a pdf and then feed into the vector. Like you need to actually properly annotate all this information so you can have consistent results. So that is what something which we say, like if we are an agri, this is something we want to use. We will make sure it's like a cheapest model available, cheapest service available, it supports all the languages and all your problems. So then you have something to kind of use it. And on integration side, we are just trying to provide everything that is possible. From the we have mobile app, we have JavaScript plugin, they can plug it in the website, can create like WhatsApp bot or web interface for someone on the complex query, someone like someone trying to do chain of thought. So all those kind of things we are implementing based on the application that we can support. And this is the part where we, as you said, like decided like we can actually we need to start supporting this thing with like more agriculture information, what kind of question that farmers ask and what type of answer that they're looking for, because that is more important than just like doing just like literal fine tuning with the data that is available. And for us, when we started, like we were just like there's another story. Like we were planning to launch this thing in somewhere in the 2024, like the Dhenu model, right? Because like in a way we are not in hurry to kind of create agriculture vertical, because there are not many vertical specific models are coming in. But at the time, like we were working with Sarvam, and they had like open hathi kind of getting released, so we decided like work together. And as an example of open hathi from their side, and for us building vertical llms on agriculture, like we kind of speed up our data curation pipeline. So we have by now built so many synthetic data curation pipelines that like we can, from the knowledge base that we have, we can generate a lot of instruction sets. We can use a lot of like the data that we have collected from around, create like a lot of question answer pair, because like we have like a ground fact and the truth already from the conversation that we collect from the KissanAI, and then the knowledge that we have. So we train the Dhenu 1.0, we're calling it, like the naming are just weird these days, but like for us to calling it Dhenu was mostly coming from this pattern that we saw, that like the first one was llama, then they started making orcas and dolphins and falcons, and we are in agriculture, so it's like, hey, we can have a Dhenu, because Dhenu is like a for cow, and I think that's like a very important. And the image you see is like generated by DALI. So we are like AI companies, we're not like trying anything hard, we just use a DALI prompt to create this image, and it worked out very well on the first try. Like amazing OpenAI product. There another one. So the goal was create a something very small, 7 million parameters, so inference cost can go down very significantly. So we tested this thing out, and it actually worked out very well, because I was not very at that point have kind of confidence in terms of like how much knowledge can be retained, right? Because that is another thing when you do fine tuning. Because fine tuning, if you follow some of the researcher online, it's kind of people are calling it, it's like it's a continual pre-training in any way. Like if you're doing full fine tuning, it's not like it's just like continuous training again. So we were able to see the lot of near knowledge that we kind of kind of got embedded. The 7 billion parameter model was already capable enough, and with the instruction for the knowledge that we kind of try to train with, so a lot of things got embedded, and it was like very promising at that point. So Now we are working on like one with like more information, better knowledge. So when we actually go into production, we'll use something which is like our target is like more than 1 million instruction, cover as much as premise that we can cover, and probably even add more languages. So working out with some folks who train like a now rasa 2.0 with a 15 indic languages, so maybe we can actually start getting something like even a more for like right now the goal is Indian. Probably we'll also create someday like US version where it just train on US data, maybe something for Brazil, Argentina. And the goal is create a lot of 7 billion parameters, smaller models, which are very cheap for inference, um, embedded with the local knowledge. So you can reduce the price of inference cost at the point, and then that can support like a large level application that can be served to the farmers, because ultimately the GPT-4 or Claude or all the costs gonna be very expensive if you actually start targeting millions and millions of like growers on the ground, right? So we will be
So
working on
I have
yes.
a very basic question. Like most of the startup founders or people who are building startup will have now, is when you say 7 billion parameters and 300K instructions.
Mhm.
Um, what does that mean? I know. Can you
Okay,
just give an example for the audience, so that they will have a complete idea of what exactly that means from a fine tuning perspective?
okay. So very well. So some of the model, like some of the popular model that we see, like a GPT 3.3 or 3.5, is like 175 billion parameter model. Uh, so when we say parameter is something as a part of the training, because the training use a lot of tags as tokens, and then after training you have multiple checkpoints, and then like the model with the different size and the parameters get created. Like now, like ideal case is if you have 7 billion parameter, then your model size be something around twice of it, because it's like a float value, like the weird way it's actually considered. So it's 7 billion parameter is around like 14 gig size of the model, right? And then if you look at in terms of economic perspective, like the GPT-4 is something around 1.8 trillion parameter model. So 1.8 trillion parameter model. So think about it, like if your A100 GPU has a 80 gigabytes of RAM, and if you want to host the full model and not even a quantized version, then how much RAM, like how many GPUs you will need, right? So 1.8 will probably require 80 GBs, uh, like I don't know count how many, like a lot of 80 GB A100s will be required for that, right? For a 7 billion parameter model, which is like 40 gigs in terms of size to be loaded on the VRAM of a GPU, it can be done. Like I'm not talking about a quantized version. Quantized version are the smaller version, but like the full model can be also hosted on even a gaming PC, gaming GPUs. So what I mean to say is like a bigger the model, energy cost wise, because at the end of the day it come to the cost, energy cost, inference cost. Bigger the model, the more like expensive it is to for the inference cost, right? So when we say the 7 billion parameter model, the amount of token it has been trained, are the probably the same for the 7 billion parameter model or a 13 billion parameter model, or like even a bigger one, 70 billion parameter. It's just like the amount of time it's trained, and the parameter basically it's like the checkpoints are, right? So when I say, and when I said 300K instruction set, right, I should have said like number of tokens used, but I'm just keeping in terms of instruction, because now I think it's a, because it's an instruction tune model, because an instruction means there is a question and answer pair, like a zero sort, a question answer pair. Someone ask a question and there is an answer very specific to that query. Like for example, our instruction set had like most of them had like a geographical location embedded. Like say I am a farmer from Kochi, Kerala, what kind of coconut variety I should be growing. And now this information that we have collected from the data, which is not just like a train on on uh, like all the universal knowledge, but like very specifically identified knowledge from the different universities in Kerala have kind of suggested to their farmers, right? So those kind of 300,000 instruction in English and Hindi kind of created this 300K instruction set that then go inside the fine tuning of the model basically. So
Got it.
the 7 billion parameter model base model was Llama 2. Open Hathi was trained on top of Llama 2, and Dhenu was train on top of OpenHathi. So the 7 billion parameter has a world knowledge. Now when you add 300k instruction, you are actually kind of specializing it for this particular instruction set, right? Uh, it it can uh, it can adapt to the style in terms of like what kind of farmer question farmers ask and what kind of answer we should be providing, and then also some knowledge embedding basically from the instruction that the part of the data that we have actually used to train. So I'll show you. I think there's a second video.
So one more question
Yes.
I had was the follow-up question was, you said building this LLM, the Dhenu, is going to save you money in
Hmm.
futuristically, uh, uh, from a business perspective. Like, how does that happen?
So I think that's a come to the energy cost, right? Like if you are using uh, like let's say GPT or Claude level model, which is maybe around 2 trillion parameter model, hosting is expensive. The inference cost goes high, right? So per token price for state of the art general purpose model is really expensive. Now, the same time, the 7 billion parameter model, the inference cost can go down 100x probably from that to that, right? So when you do that thing, if you can bring down the cost 100x, but then you can supplement the limitation of the smaller model. Oh, of course, GPT-4 has really great amount of knowledge and reasoning power and everything, right? But many applications that we are doing over here are not like somebody doing deep research in terms of like from the farmer side. They're not like doing some chemical research to identify things. They're looking for a specific answers through the voice because they're working in the field, and we want to provide them very specific answers from their geography that we have already curated, right? And the LLM's job would be creating the answer in the style that we have embedded, and also kind of supplement if something is missing in the knowledge base from the knowledge base, that part of the fine tuning process, right? So that's the goal for us, that like if we can reduce that the cost of inference, then it can be like real democratization of AI can happen, because $20 subscription for a farmer is not going to happen. And then if you add a RAG based curated knowledge application, then it will be really very expensive, right? So we're not expecting anyone to do that. We are not expecting agribusiness to support their millions of farmer by paying $20 for each of them, right? So they are also looking for solution which is like less than $1 or $2 or $5 a year for like for the individuals customer that have, right? So that is something we enable, that now you can actually create a solution that can be like deploy on mass level. From yours the agribusiness side, it can be free because it can help them to increase the customer engagement, first of all, because farmers are not using their app a lot. The drop off rate is high, so now they have like a something inside their app, so there's more engagement coming. By enabling conversational commerce as one of the use case, now they can start selling directly. So now they can actually suggest what to buy, and that increase the commerce on that. So they actually start removing middlemen. Remember, like our original goal was to actually enable this direct connection, right? So now it can happen. And the meanwhile, keeping the inference cheap, they can actually support custom, like the farmers on a larger level. So literally the disruption of the whole value chain that right now we have from the agri input to the farmer, similarly can also happen from the farmer to the marketplace, right? Basically selling directly to the consumer on that end also can happen. So in that way, we like our our goal would always be to kind of keep reducing the cost of inference so it can go to the like millions of people around the world.
So there is a question from the audience. I
Yes.
just want to bring that up to you.
Yes.
So Nipendra is asking, uh, how did you collect the local data? For example,
Yes.
state-wise.
Yeah, so that's a very like the one of the biggest problem. Like we have been working on this thing for like few years now. So for the collection of the state data, either you have to like work with the universities or like institutes that they have. If you have like relationship with them, like you get handed like a thousands of files, then you have to identify which one is like a latest package of practices which can be useful or not. And sometime ideally it's a public data. It's produced by public institutes to be consumed by public, but it's not like easily available. So if you're a farmer, like say how it works in India, at least I can tell you about it. Like that if you are a farmer, there is like a a booklet get published by every university in your area to help you. Now this booklet is like a mostly paper format. You go over there, ask someone, and they'll hand you. They say like, hey, read it out. But as we know, the most of like many of them are illiterate. And even if you're literate, yeah, you're not going to read like a 50, 60, 100 pages. You know how much attention span that we have these days for someone to read 100 pages for one question answer, right? It's mostly doesn't happen. So this is how the data is out there. But if you are, let's say, if you're a startup and say like, hey, university, give me your data, then you will never get it basically, because think about it, like they say like, hey, who are you, what is your authority, like who give you the rights? But if I go over there as a farmer, then yes, I can have that data. Ideally it is supposed to be delivered to the farmer, right? And we are, so how it is different if I take a pamphlet or a booklet from a university, then take it, the booklet, to a village and read in front of 100 people, right? Then educate them, right? Or I take that booklet, digitize it, and serve using LLM to them the same knowledge, right? Ideally it's the same thing. But because there is no not enough like in terms of awareness how this thing works, there is a lot of uh, like people are afraid of AI, and there's so many things basically kind of put this thing in like, hey, why, like we won't give you. So it has been always challenging thing. And we are trying our best to get whatever. I think there is some central project going on to collect it. We'll see how we can contribute or how they can help us out to curate and solve something better. But we will keep doing it. Our goal now has changed to kind of curating this thing so we can serve people who are actually serving directly, right? uh, because if there is a company who's selling fertilizer in India, they're probably like selling it to millions of farmer every day, every year, right? So they already have access to the millions of farmer relationship. We can just, if we can help them out, we can actually affect a lot of farmer directly that way, because there is actually real transaction happening over there, not just like a gyan, right? But there's like real transaction happening over there. Yes. So
So there is one more question from Sai Krishna.
yeah, yeah.
So before we proceed, I'll just take this last question. So, what were the challenges you faced while building Denu?
Yes. So the biggest part was the creating instructions. Like we had a two option. Either we do training, like just do like a SFT with the like just using a base model and the data that we have, or we go instruction fine tune way, right? So what end up happening is that the knowledge that we have, as I said, like it's unstructured, it's not properly curated. Sometime it has this like just a short words which only get understood by agronomists, like say use NPK 18 colon 18 colon 18, right? So what does it mean, right? Like, so maybe some farmer knows, some may not. So NPK means like a nitrogen, potassium, calcium, something like that, uh, in equal proportion, something like that. Some answer will have 1 colon 2 colon 1. So one of the biggest challenges that we have is the curating of this data set. See the instruct once you have the instruction set, fine tuning all this thing is nowadays, like if you know, that's not like a big challenge in terms of how to fine tune it. It's just the knowledge and the data that you prepare at that point, that is very important, right? So for us that was the biggest task. Now we can do the curation using, see, the manual curation is very very difficult in terms of like individually going through 300,000 is going to take months, or take me like a millions of dollar to do that. So there are other way you can do is use another different models to do the fine tuning of your data. It's called kind of synthetic data generation, semi synthetic. There's like a still debate on what do we call it. So what do you can do is basically use a powerful model, give them the ground truth, and tell it to kind of curate the information for you. So you then have to go just very quickly to the remaining part. And then what we end up doing is that, like, we had like a time crunch. We have to do it in like 15-20 days. uh, and the amount of instruction that we have, it will be like, it will take huge amount of time to go. So what we ended up doing is there is a like open source model called News Hermes 2.5. It's like one of the open source model that has been built by one of the friend. So I have like a lot of friends actually on the indie hacker space, and that particular model was very good at instruction, giving like a proper output in JSON format. Because if you're doing automated instruction generated, your model also need to follow structured output. You cannot just like generate and copy and paste. It need to be like done automatically. So we use the other model to curate the data that we have by putting a lot of information, created like a lot of JSON bunch of them, inserted it, and then our team went through like very quickly in terms of checking that out, like done. So then we actually using that, we were able to reach at least the first 100K proper instruction. So yeah, and now we have kind of mastered that thing. So when we did the next model for Dhenu Vision, where we did like right now we release for around 9,000 images. Like the first version was just a taste, that again to taste if the knowledge is getting there's knowledge retention. Can we do actually perform better than the base model for the disease detection and the solution, the curation part. So now our pipeline is so nice that it's now 9,000 curation took us a couple of days. Now we have 50,000. So right now our team is working on the remaining part of that. And now like probably within couple of days we can actually generate, depending upon how much amount of effort we want to put in, like how much bill that we want to incur in a day. So
So one of the question is, I usually get from a lot of startups is that how do you test between the base model versus
yes,
the LLM, and how do you find that accuracy, like which is best?
yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you do
So
that?
that's also one of the very very good question, because right now most of the field has like this golden data sets, and this is something we are also working on, and we are trying to take like another pioneer leadership in creating this golden data set for agriculture. But now for agriculture it's like very subjective, different region, different geography has a different kind of set and practices. So how you create like a golden data set for agriculture, right? So that particular problem, like the problem we are going to tackle next, but we are working with UN on the development project. So we have a UN project to build a climate resilient agriculture chatbot for like couple of state in India. So this is like one of the kind of initiative where we will build a climate resilient agriculture knowledge set. So very specifically those answers can be delivered to the farmers in like backward regions, because ultimately they are the one who's supposed to practice those things, right? And for that, because now our scope is reduced to just a CRA, we are trying to build like a golden data set for climate resilient agriculture. So then it becomes standardized to start testing output and evaluate your output of your model or your RAG plus model, like the whole pipeline. So how do we tested this thing out? Like then if you do not have like an automated eval test or golden data set available, then how do you test it? You do manual testing basically. So you have like a test set available, then literally your team will go and check it out the output and compare with the ground truth. So for us the then 1.0, the testing this thing out was like really time consuming thing, and we had like so many priorities meanwhile. So we tested it out, the team tested out for like 300-400 instruction and say like, okay, this is how it's working. There was some automated test done for but that's by the server team, but that was like on the standard parameters, not agriculture. So that would be like a true for other scores, but not for this one, right? We do not care how much good our model is at coding or like a medical knowledge or something else. Like we care about like agriculture knowledge, right? So yes, we will have to kind of start building some agriculture golden data set. So I was in recently I talked to some of the largest company in the world who actually also work with the Microsoft uh, to train some of their internal LLM. And I think there is a common understanding between us that we need to start creating some kind of golden data set. So probably want to start and initiate this process and see if we can actually come up with something. So until that
Perfect.
point, it's most of manual thing.
Got it. Perfect. So there's one more question. So there's bunch of questions which are coming in, by the way, Pratik. So
Hmm.
uh, one more question is, did we talk about infra? So what can you just talk about the infra which you use? I'm thinking that
I
Nipendra
think
is
we have,
looking at,
yes,
yeah,
I
no,
think we
not
have
that
slide
one.
for
I
that.
think he is looking for the infra from the training perspective, the fine tuning perspective. What was your infra
Yes,
perspective?
so
I think that is what the question is targeted against. Yeah.
so the 7 billion parameter model training is for Tinder instruction is not very time consuming basically thing, right? It probably take like a 4 A100 for like a 8-9 hours, something like that, not more than that. Because a smaller model like the one we trained for vision took us 13 hour on single A100 80 GB. it was a LoRa fine tune. So now I'm looking for some some compute. I'm like, shopping around some compute for the full SFT, because I think the vision model with the 50,000 instruction will need something. So we'll figure it out. I figured it out how I can get some help in terms of someone providing us that compute part, so we can train
Yeah,
the
we are
full
working
one.
on it. We are
Yes,
working on it.
yes, working on it. Microsoft, like the only reason we are running right now is like Microsoft has backed us. I think we provided the problem very well. Now we are actually generating revenue, and also now we're confident. But early days it was the founders hub who kept the shop running basically. At one point we were growing so high fast that there was like I was incurring like a few $1,000s a day, like ramping up, and I was like, I'm gonna run out of my savings. And I probably, I've been working full time from this since 2019 when I joined. Like I've been working full time on this one, right? So it's not that like I have plethora of money or funding that I can keep burning this thing. And anyway, I have to
And
also,
you are bootstrapped.
yes, and I also need to figure out, like, whatever I build, I cannot just be very lavish in terms of deploying infrastructure and think that like, hey, farmer will pay, because they will not pay. So I'll have to always be very cheap in terms of whatever I do, because ultimately when this become like on even a large scale, if I have built something which costs like a 20 rupees for one call, or 5 rupees for one call, 10 rupees for one inference call, then it's not going to work out, right? It's need to be like in some sense, like, some um, lower. So that's our goal, is basically to keep reducing the thing. And the serving side, okay, so serving side, Nipendra, I like we right now we haven't deployed in the production the Dhenu model. We deployed when where there is a like a production going on, uh probably like a T4 and A100, but it's not deployed on a large scale production that you will see, because right now, like, all most of our use cases being probably done by GPT 3.5, the knowledge base case. And for us right now, either it's like a 84, or like a couple of ones that we are running right now are A100, but we do not have like a mass large scale deployment infrastructure right now. We don't have that many users, to be honest. So you mute, Vivek.
Oh yeah. Let's move on to the other demo then.
Okay, so I think if you can run this one, I think it just played. Okay, so this one was, okay, it's over. So this is basically, as I said, very specific for, these are the very specific pesticide used in India. This name would be different if you go outside, basically. So the reason, like, if you are uh, looking for answers for some very specific pesticide, and if you, like, ask question to general purpose LLM, they will be not very specific to that. But because we actually collected data what Indian, like, in our region get used, this was basically, we can use it. So now if you can play the second one, so this one is basically in Hindi. Because of the open Hathi, the model is basically bilingual. So you can, if you use a GPT-3 or Claude or other things, then Indic tokens are very expensive, because it's Indic tokens are expensive, because it's like 4 or 5x for one, right? But because this is natively trained with the different tokenizer, when you actually ask in Hindi, the token get generated directly in the Hindi, and the cost is like get significantly reduced. And it's
So
also
this also works with Hindi and English right now, right?
yeah. So the
Like
Dhenu
mix
was
of, yeah,
English, yes. So English is
yeah,
let me show you the,
English.
yes. So the English video is there, like, so the you can play the next one where you can actually write like a mix Hindi in English, and it will, मैं महाराष्ट्र का किसान हूँ. So you can write like and our goal next, I think the one we are working is like add 15 languages. And in a way it is like also from our perspective, it's like a lot of experimentation too, right? Because what end up happening is we are fine tuning, we're adding more data. So the goal is like, at maybe within like 4 to 6 months we will have like really mature model, that can actually we can start promoting as like, hey, like on a larger scale. So like, hey, if you're going to use for any agribusinesses, if you're going to use other models, why don't you use our model? Because it's like smaller, cheaper, properly trained for this thing. But I think we are reaching at the point that we can actually stand alone, start serving our models basically. So the next one is for the vision model that we train. So okay. So the goal for, like, see, when you are actually trying to detect disease or pest or anything, you can just do like a regular CNN models, but it will just give you like the probability of detecting one particular knowledge of disease. Like what we wanted to do is add like a 4 or 5 different instructions with the disease associated, not just the detecting it. So what is like symptoms of the particular disease, what kind of prevention method, like what are the pesticide you can use, or like what are the organic way of doing it. And now, so there are like a 5 different category of questions and the data with every image that we use and try to train it. So you can actually go and uh, like you can actually talk to the image, right? So it's not about just taking a picture and say what is it. You want to have more information, and then you don't want to read like a 5 page long information, because you're looking for very specific answers. So take a picture, identify, and say like, hey, what's going on, what should I use for this thing. So that is what the goal of the whole vision model is. And other reason that we are working on this one is because right now there are some like just CNN based solutions which are really expensive like in the market. And because they are really expensive for each detection queries, they are not very much used by in developing nations, India or everywhere else, because like farmer cannot afford it, the businesses cannot afford it to have them in their uh, applications. So it's not being used that on that level. Our goal is that like we create this vision model, again smaller, cheaper, try to train it properly with this particular, like maybe like create for just limited crop to begin with, and then make it cheaper in a way that it everybody can start using it like on a larger scale. So we open source this model. Actually it's on the Hugging Face. You will have to figure out how to, like I'll probably add the inference code later on, but right now we're such a small team, we just like uploaded the weight. It's based on qn vl chat. That's like the Alibaba's model. And next version we are trying to do with the lava. So we're figuring out like better and cheaper model. The data set is important, right? It's the data set that you curate and then train. The base model can be anything. So when we did this one, we tasted out with like a 400 different images of the taste set. And after training, even with the LoRa adapter, it kind of did like a 2x better than the base qn chat model. So we're going to do the full sft and then go for 9,000 to 50 60,000 images and cover like many major crops. Right now it's just 3 crops. So hopefully, it can be something uh, better and cheaper, so we can actually start using, folks can start using on mass level. And that's the ultimate goal, is like, like the farmers on the ground can start using and like, having
So I can take
conversation.
a picture of any of these crops and just
Right.
just upload it, and I'll be able to know what's
No.
wrong with this,
Yes.
right?
And you can
Perfect.
start having
That's
even conversation like what should I do. And then we're going to focus on one basic problem, because as I said like in the beginning, we are very focused on what we are doing, like agri problems, like with the directly that can help farmers. So like we can do many more things, maybe satellite image and all, but we're going to just focus on kind of these applications, at least on our vision models. Awesome.
so Parthik, you talked about open sourcing this, right? So do you have that link so that we can share it with the
Yes.
community?
So if you go on the Dhenu.ai, there is a Hugging Face link over there, if at
Okay.
the bottom. Yes. On the Hugging Face, if you look search Dhenu, you will also find it out.
So if I go to Deno.ai, okay, check out our model then. Perfect. So I'm just
Maybe it
dropping
is
that
right.
in the chat.
Okay.
Cool. So So, community, just share questions in the chat so that uh, we can engage Pratik's, in the morning as well.
Yes.
So, uh, so let's get back to the slides then.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
So this is the the services that been using from Azure. So before that, we were using AWS. I have been AWS user for so long, and like never had a chance to do Azure. But after I think we got on the startup hub, started matching one on one, and find out that like it was like very compatible for us to move anytime. Like it was like no learning curve for us at that point. So we moved like the entire code base and everything. And the other reason was the micro. There are like two, three proper reasons. Like the first one is OpenAI services, because while we use OpenAI endpoints too, the instances that we can create in Microsoft Azure OpenAI endpoints, basically at that point I was seeing there were a lot of uh, rate errors from the AI, because anytime there is like a peak in the early days, OpenAI API endpoint had like the peak error related issues. We didn't find that one. And I think the models are also like once you have an instance of a model, it stays the same basically. So we found like many benefits of start using Azure OpenAI endpoints. So we shifted that one. The speech and language services and the translation, as I said before, like this is like one of the best available one, because I think the the model used for Basini and the Azure translation speech language are pretty much same. And then on the infrastructure side, I think these are like the standard thing. Probably people use it for running any infra, like Postgres, Cosmo DB. We are using MongoDB to actually store the chat conversation. That's something else. And on the Founder Hub, before Microsoft, I was actually hosting my own server. I have been like very much open source guy from the beginning, so I decided that I'm going to start hosting my own web servers, which we still do for the Hitori.com. But uh, we moved KissanAI to 365 business and email, and like it's been working out really great, because now all the team, instead of using many open source tools, which is still good, like I still support it, but I think at one point, like you have to stop tinkering and focus on the building business. So you were running and maintaining those things became very difficult for me and the team. So it's like, hey, we're gonna focus on this one, use everything at one point. And now we are like, when you actually start generating revenue when you have business, then this thing become like secondary, right? Earlier you're trying to save money in everywhere else. So so this is basically all the services. The document intelligence is something also important. Like I think that is something new, and our team has been exploring and trying and testing out. It's working out well. That's when we talk about like the data curation part, because when you have a lot of PDFs and all, and you need to do OCR or just like extract information. So pipeline we have added document intelligence for the PDF, and it's working out really well. So uh, this is right now like our stack look like, in terms of like using. We are like completely on Azure right now. Even the DNS has been moved uh, or to like Azure services.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much comprehensive use of all the services for different use cases
Yeah.
which you have, right? So this is pretty
uh,
much a startup, AI startup services on Azure. If I
Correct.
talk to any AI startup, they're pretty much using all of these services.
Yes. And one thing we would probably like to add is the marketplace. Maybe when we actually start launching the model and make it like available for everyone to consume, we can start adding that as a like a marketplace, something kind of available. I think that's we are working on, like probably will have soon. So anybody can just deploy the instance of the platform and start using it for their
Perfect.
VPCs and all. So I think I'm just gonna go quickly on the use cases, if you're okay. I don't know if like how much time that we have. So I think we already talk about the conversational commerce part, like why agribusiness want to use it, right? Because advisor is good, Gyan is good, but if you cannot convert in the action, then it's just like a free service, right? So our goal is that like when we are actually enabling the multilingual voice-based conversation, we are enabling something where they can actually the suggested product from which the answer is coming from can be also suggested, so that can increase the direct conversion of customer and purchase happening through their app. Because many time farmer knows. And other thing is something that they can also give a bargaining power, because when when a grower or a farmer goes to a retail shop, they will sell whatever is available to them, whatever in the stock. It's not always like the best for the farmers for exactly what they're asking for, right? So I go with love something, say I want to grow organic thing with this climate resilient thing, like specific requirement of farmer comes in. But then when it goes to buy the seeds, then you only get whatever that is available. Like these are the three options, choose whatever you want, right? But when and then other person will try to sell the same thing. What we are enabling is like, hey, for this particular company there are like a three thing and I want exactly this one, not what you're suggesting, which actually also can give them bargaining power when they want to stay buying locally. And I think these are the another use cases that we talked about, right? That it's not just about advisory and market, because what we're suggesting is like we're going to take care of all your knowledge base, not just product advisory, package practices, research, trial data. Then you can actually create multiple application from this, not just the advisory or conversational commerce, because your support team can start answering manual, like you have entire manuals at your helm in your vector database. So your support team do not have to go and search and read. They can directly search and find out the steps and then start talking on the call center, right? So it can actually reduce load on top of them too. uh, it can also enable like writing blogs and marketing articles and creating like very personal user specific articles or blogs, or even like emails for everyone who's like targeting. That may not be useful for, let's say, the smallholder farmers, but there are also category of farmers who are like, they have like hundreds acre of farms, they are looking for multiple things. So many personalization thing can be also enabled. And I think just like near to the conclusion, uh, what we are actually trying to become is like the agriculture superhighway for the knowledge. On one side you have all the knowledge that get produced by either public knowledge from the institute and all, and the other one is from the agribusinesses who have proprietary knowledge. We convert, curate, and keep it on. And then on the other side you have all the people that actually are ready to consume, and we become the superhighway with all the features that needed. And like if there is an agriculture vertical application someone is building in future Gen AI, we want to be the one, either the whose platform get used or the model get used, and you want to be that particular vertical Gen AI company. And I think that's from my side. uh, like I cannot thank
Thanks,
Microsoft more.
Pratik, for taking this time out and sharing this very insightful information with us. Um, you know, uh, just to uh, just for new entrepreneurs out there who are listening to this, basically how you should go about doing planning a product, right? Basically, you go with the uh, curating data, then after that, you building on top of that data, and how you build this out with all the connects which you have, and also routes which you have, right? As part of the being a farmer, and how you have taken this whole journey and where you are today. It looks like from India to the globe, right? We are taking this from India to the globe, and very very interesting product. I would suggest people who are watching this show to go and try it out. We have posted all the links in the chat. I can also post it again just uh, for your benefit. So this is Kisan.ai. You can go to Kisan.ai and uh, just ask questions. Just see if you have a farm. You can just ask questions and see how it is going to help you as well, and just play around with it. And I have shared um, the Hugging Face open sourced Dhenu versions vision, LoRa as well, link, so people can go back and play around with that as well.
So
Cool.
Vivek, one
Yeah.
request like I have it is like, see, I want everyone to go play around, and I think one important thing they can help us out with providing the feedback, because the problem of the, like, there is not even a central repository of agri data. We are trying our best to get as much. I think many people ask question like how difficult it is, right? So what we want to know is like what are that particular sections where you are not getting very specific information, or what are you exactly looking for, which is what we are not able to deliver And if we identify that like there is like a repetitive questions coming in, so we can focus to get those data first and try to curate and add it to the repository. Because like 100 institute, every institute has like a 40 departments, from the horticulture to aquaculture to like a forestry, like there's so many things right available. Now what should I focus on? So we are trying figuring out our way to find out what is that thing like exactly, right? And that we can focus. So if there are users who are coming and suggesting with like open mind, like, hey, this answer is working well, perfect. Because we had so many people, like I couldn't share the story where somebody were able to actually use it to identify a way of making air freshener from the agriculture waste. I think you had that Lokesh Patade, right? So
Yeah.
the person who
Yeah.
used AI, Kisan AI, found answers, created an air freshener, and created his own a startup now, agri startup. Like that's like one of the story. So so you can actually go around, ask difficult question, and figure out with the open mind. Like, and sometimes if you're trying on a first shot, it will give you generic answer. It happens. So what we want to learn is what are the thing where the knowledge base was not hit, and where we can actually identify, add those more knowledge, because it's going to be for us a longer process, right? So that would be wonderful if can some you can reach out through my Twitter or like account where I'm really active, or LinkedIn or anywhere else, so I
Yeah,
can help
I
you
think
out.
that's a fair ask. If people are trying it out and if they want specific things, please reach out to Pratik, and he'll be happy to talk to you about it. And yes, of course, that's a wonderful user story which I met Lokesh at GPI, and I remember he bringing all his freshness and into the into the show, and probably keeping out there, and we had wonderful time talking to him, having the real customer to talk to people, right? That's something which was very interesting time as well. We spent in December. Cool. So as of now, Pratik, I don't see any questions coming in, but there were a bunch of questions which we have answered. So so until then, people can go back and ask questions to Pratik. But by the way, Pratik, thank you for being on the show. And this has been amazing journey, and I hope this will continue to be big, and from India to the globe, which is what we are looking at. And all the best for you. Thank you for
Thank
being in
you.
the show once again.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Rashmita, for hosting us. Um, thank you very much.